Standard 7.2, ISTE Criterion 24. Use assessment data to inform and guide instruction based on individual student needs. Use technology to design and implement a variety of formative and summative assessments that accommodate learner needs, provide timely feedback to students, and inform instruction. For Artifact 12, I created the summative assessment analysis. Students were given a summative math assessment that focused on place value and numbers and operations. The purpose of this assessment is to see what knowledge students have retained after teaching the unit for 4.5 weeks. The students were given this assessment in a digital form, and they were given scratch paper to use to solve their problems, to work out, and show their work. All classroom students took the assessment during our math block, in which they had 1 hour to complete the questions. This assessment addressed standards 4MA B7, 4MA B6, 4MA B9. Throughout this, I demonstrate the use of technology to design and implement formative and summative assessments for my 4th grade students, them using the testing platform to take the assessment online, as well as us going back to review the data, was the use of technology platforms. I accommodated learner needs by where it says they had 60 minutes to answer their questions. I accommodated learner needs by if they had IEPs or 504 plans, then I allow students to have their extended time according to what their document stated. I provided timely feedback to students. We reviewed the data. I did this individually, and then we also looked at this whole class. So for example, this visual representation of the data, I showed whole class so that students could see where we were, not just individually, but also as a class. So for example, 43% of students needed 6 total students out of the 14 needed to be retaught. So that means they would go and I would develop small group instruction and then individual instruction for them as well. This is more data that we were able to review. Whole group was able to look at the percentage of students in the class that were able to grasp the material, and then it showed me those who still needed a little bit of remediation, and I was able to make a plan from there. ISTE Standard 7.3, Criterion 25. Provide opportunities for students to reflect on their own learning data. Use assessment data to guide progress and communicate with students, parents, and education stakeholders to build student self-direction. So I met with students individually, and we had a class meeting as a whole to discuss the results of this exam or assessment. We looked at the scores by gender, ethnicity. We also did an analysis of the standards. It was a great thing to show students how teachers look at data and what we see and how we further drive instruction. And I was able to further drive instruction by pulling students into small groups to address certain standards. 4MA B6 was the first standard that I wanted to address since it had the lowest score. Students did not do very well on this standard, so this is something that I wanted to readjust and reteach quickly. After reviewing the data, I decided to spend more time on that particular standard and use more manipulatives to ensure that students understood on a concrete and an abstract level. And then I required students to be able to show me how they represent the place value concepts, in addition to just choosing the correct answer on the question. This way, I would have them show me their work for these types of problems. I reported to students and stakeholders. In a PLC, I communicated this data with my teammates, and we compared data to see how their students performed on certain questions versus other classes, and then we shared instructional strategies. Students are remediated using iReady individualized lessons at this point, in Comet Time, which is our intervention block, and then small group with other students that have not mastered the standard as well. So they were grouped based on like students that had the same struggles. I provided example problems for standards that they may have struggled with and for the standards that they mastered, so they are able to familiarize themselves with what they were tested on. I also communicated this information with parents. When communicating with parents, I sent home the test results along with corrected test problems. I required a signature in order for students to retake the exam. So parents were well aware. I communicated with parents about how they can work with students at home, and I sent home various materials, homework, and different materials that have various strategies that parents could work on at home with students. I communicated my class data with more members of the team, and we compared our results to others in the district as well. And we did this to see the difference in how well the students in our classes perform in comparing them to others in the district. This is what helped us determine what standards needed to be readdressed on a grade level. Overall, I think students did a great job of going over their data, reviewing their data, and then even planning for themselves, showing ownership in the things that needed to be addressed and the things that needed to be retaught. I think that parents really stepped in, and then stakeholders as well stepped in to help with instructional strategies to make sure that students were able to really grasp these concepts.